Rabies. I don't think animals experience boredom like we do. And I do say this often. I think we need to be very, very careful of anthropomorphizing animals too much, giving them human emotions, like boredom. I mean, that I think would be very unfair to assume that they get bored. I don't think so. Animals do what they need to. Lions, they rest during the day. That's general lion behavior. I don't think it's because of boredom or anything. Even the playfulness that we're seeing now, from them waking up, and you can just see that little cub. It's a bit tricky. Hold on, let me reverse. I don't know if it'll help. Maybe. Oh no, as I say that, the cub decides it's had enough. Maybe it's going to go and bother someone else. Hold on, I'll move forward now. So I don't think it's definitely, actually, it's not I don't think, it's definitely not boredom. Definitely not boredom. Oh wow, this one to the left was stretching and clawing away at the bark of the tree. What is it doing? That's really interesting. Jumped into that tree. I don't know if it saw something. Let me just reverse a little bit. I don't know if it saw something go up into that tree. I don't think so. Doesn't look like it. I haven't seen any movement there. Got up very quickly. No, I think it's just being a boisterous youngster. It sounds like Tingana's on the move, so let's go across to Ali and see where that male leopard is going.
Well, we thought that he was going to get and go, but he's just gone a few steps ahead and he's laid down again. So we can just, sorry, it's not going into gear. Sorry, somebody's, there we go. All right, there we go. Yeah, sorry, my radio doesn't copy everything you guys say. I'm on the eastern side. Just come towards the south, and then you'll see me there. The bottom side, close to the lodge side. So if you come completely towards room 11, then you'll see me there. I'm on the open area side. Alright, so it's a little bit tricky sometimes to try and direct people into certain areas, but because there are obviously other vehicles and other guests that would like to see a leopard, and perhaps this is their only chance ever to see a leopard, then we like to sort of help them or direct them into this particular spot. Now, Tingana, like we said earlier, he walked about 2 steps and then he sat down and that was about it. We did think that he maybe was going to try and hide in another bush and sleep in there, but perhaps he feels like the grass is long enough to keep him sheltered there. He's looking a little bit tired, and I must say it's a little bit sad seeing him like this because he's not looking with a lot of energy, but maybe it's just because he's tired. Right, seems like the lions are full of energy, so let's head back to them.
Well, they are. They've been some of these youngsters jumping on one another and clawing at the trees. Let's see, I wonder. There's 2 youngsters at the back. Just keep an eye on them. Let's just wait and watch, because they have been bouncing up and down there a little bit. Now all that clawing and tree scraping would probably be just to clean the claws and stretch them out a little bit. First lady, do lion claws grow back if they break them? I don't think so. No, I don't think they do. I think if they lose a claw, I think it's gone. But I stand to correction. See, I've never seen a lion with a missing claw before. I've seen them with missing teeth, broken teeth and that, and those teeth don't grow back. So I don't think the claws do. But like I said, I've never seen a lion with a broken claw. It's difficult to see because they're retractable. So unless the claws are out, we're not going to know if there's a broken claw or not. Watch, you're going to get to... What? There you go. A little bit of playful behavior. That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted to see. Lions jumping on each other, starting to wake up. See, and all this playful behavior is constantly strengthening the bonds between the pride. Look, did you notice that lioness? Look how her ears are pinned back. Now that is what we refer to, not that one, sorry, that one that was walking there. She pinned her ears right back when she was growling at the others. And that is that agnostic behavior, aggressive behavior. So if you were walking and you had to bump into a lion, that's the look you're going to get. You're going to get the ears pinned back, and the lion probably growling at you if you had to bump into them. And when they fight, they do the same. Cheryl, we're very far from Tingana. Tingana's on Chitwa. So it's about a 20-minute drive, I would say, from here. Maybe less. Maybe if we just had to drive straight away, about 15-minute drive to where Tingana is. I would say maybe 10 or so kilometers, maybe a bit more, about 10 kilometers. So what is that? 6 miles, maybe, at least, I would say, somewhere around there. Sure. Getting a bit chilly out here. See, also eating grass. We saw Hukumuri, that male leopard that we found the other day. We saw him eating grass too. And it's not because the lions are becoming herbivores. They're doing it to help with digestion and help clean the stomach. Sometimes causes them to regurgitate maybe a hairball or something like that, but it does help with digestion. Okay, well, let's go across to Tristan, and he's apparently got a duck that he'd like to show you.
I do. I've got the most prehistoric looking duck that we get out here, with that big shape on its, horseshoe shape thing on its beak. And so it is a knob-billed duck. The male, we saw a female this morning, and they don't have that big shape on the beak itself, and so really very cool to see it. It looks so strange when you see it. It's an amazing kind of thing to have, and what it's for, no one really knows too much. It's probably a resonating organ that helps with their calling and attracting females, as well as showing their stature to a female, but it's not really got any other purpose than that. But amazing, isn't it? It's incredible growth that they've got coming off of their beak. And like I say, beautiful duck though. They've got this white plumage with these kind of greys and then blues all over the wings, blues and greens. Very, very pretty. And Wiem and I were just talking about how, you know, it's windy when a mud wallow the size of your bathtub has got waves on it, because that area there is being blown all over the place, and that poor little duck has also been bobbed around, and it's, like I say, a waterhole that is tiny, so it's very, very strange that it's being bounced around. But our duck will probably sit there. There's lots of them around at the moment, and they love these small little pan areas like this. They love to filter feed out of small little wallows, and so I wouldn't be surprised he stays there. Lots of females about at the moment as well that are kind of moving around looking for mates, and so I wouldn't be surprised we see a lot of young ducks fairly soon as well. Very cool looking bird though, isn't it? It's a bit weird looking. Anyway, while we carry on and try and see what else we can find, still no luck with Tundi. Let's send you back across to Byron, who's, well, fared far better than we have this afternoon.
Yep, I think we have. And now these lions are starting to get up and move, but in the wrong direction, not the direction we wanted them to go. But we'll see where they decide to move. They could possibly move a few meters to the other side of this. This is where the old hyena den was. They could possibly move a few meters down this little track and then decide to lie down again. But we will try to stay with them for as long as possible. Well, Jessica, you know what? If one lion is old or sick, the rest of the pride, they just watch this playfulness. Look at that. It's amazing. Jessica, the rest of the pride has to continue with living their life. They can't stop and stay in one area if there's no food or water. They need to carry on. It is survival of the fittest out there. If a lioness or a lion is old, can't keep up with the pride, or is sick or injured, if it can't keep up, the rest of the pride will still hunt. And they will allow it to obviously feed, so they'll still provide food for it. But if it can't keep up, they're not going to just hang around and wait, because that could potentially be to the detriment of the pride. So they need to look after themselves first. They won't necessarily change their behavior purely because one lion is sick. Let's see where they're going. I'm going to try and move through here quickly. A lot of these youngsters chasing each other. Oh, this little cub, it's at the back here. I don't want to startle it. Let's just wait. Oh, this looks beautiful. Hold on. Look at that whole line of lions walking through the bush. That is lovely. I'm just trying to think where these lions are going to go. See, they could potentially I don't know. They but that is a beautiful view. Look at that. Magnificent. Now, I would think maybe, even though it's cool, they might head towards some water. The nearest water to where we are now is Gallagher Pan, but they're heading more in a almost directly east. Slightly southeast, so I'm not sure. But just as we thought, with the day getting a bit, well, it's been cool for a while, but now they've obviously rested enough. I'm deciding it's time to start moving and potentially look for something to hunt. Perfect conditions, very windy, and it will help the lions. It will definitely aid the lions. And I think this pride is due for some food, because they do look hungry. They do look very hungry. So hopefully they will be lucky this evening. Grateful Dad, the lions, you know what, I actually think they've spotted something. Just judging by their behavior, let me just see. Because this lioness is circling around back this way. Look at that, that's different. So Grateful Dad, I think they may head into the wind so they can hear and smell a bit better. But the wind is kind of swirling a little bit. So as long as it stays really windy. Where does this lion want to go? See, that's interesting behavior. The rest of the pride are going that way, and she's definitely circling around. Now, I've seen lions do this before. One or two may head around if they see potential prey. They'll loop around and actually and try and chase whatever prey it is that they've seen towards the other lions. Lions have been known to do that. It makes perfect sense. Allow the rest of the pride to lie in ambush, and then go around and potentially try chase whatever it is towards them. But I don't know what they've seen, if they've seen anything. I'm trying to have a look at youngsters. Well, that one's curious as to where the other lion went. I need to go forward a little bit. Let's see if we can have a look if they've spotted something in the bush. Now these thick areas could be ideal for kudu or nyala. Could also be the odd impala through here, but I don't know. Sorry, there's a stump here. There we go. Okay, I'm not going to go further. I want to chase the youngsters. But let's try to scan this through the bush here a little bit and just see if I can see any movement. You see, that's the thing. The lion's eyesight is so good. Also, did they perhaps smell something? Oh, sorry. So I don't know if they smelled something or if they did see some movement, but the others are moving off in the opposite direction now to where this the lioness walked past us. This little cub is now left behind. Probably start following soon. I don't think it'll stay away from the rest of the pride. Obviously knows maybe they're hunting, so oh, here's Zinyala. Here's Zinyala that running past us. And a Steenbok. Oh, the lions are going. Just as I thought. Inyala running through here. And I think that other lioness drove them straight towards these lions. But I think the Inyala darted off in the wrong direction. But how's that? They've obviously picked up on their scent or the smell. This little cub, I think, knew it has to stay here. It has to wait for the lions to come back. And there it goes. That was really unfortunate. We had 2 Inyala come rushing past and a Steenbok. Oh, that was exciting. It just shows you that's exactly what we thought was going to happen. That one walked around and obviously saw these Inyala and chased them towards the rest of the pride. But unfortunately, they didn't get lucky. But we'll see if we can try to see them again. Let's go back across to Ali and Tingana.
Well, not much has changed here. Seems like Tingana is still busy sleeping and definitely has not even moved. Now, we know he's roughly alert of what's been going on because there's a odd twitch of the ear, probably because of the direction where he's sleeping. Little things are flying into his ear. We cannot see actually any flies, which is a relief because this morning they were in full force and just flying everywhere. Perhaps there are little pieces of grass that are going into his ear that we cannot see. Other than that, not much has changed here, so it's quite interesting to see the difference in behavior in the same conditions of 2 cats in, well, roughly the same environment. Now the lions seem to have taken the opportunity to get up and move. It seems, well, you guys, Chris was updating us and letting us know that apparently the rain is coming down already over there. Lucky for us here, it is looking darker in certain areas, but the rain is still not falling down. Now I think that has helped to keep Tingana in the position that he's in, and that's perhaps the reason why he hasn't moved yet. He doesn't really have to. Other than it being the certain level of cold that it's been since we found him, he's not bothered by anything falling from the sky. So as long as it doesn't rain, I think he'll be quite happy here and quite settled until a little bit later on when he's likely going to get up and try to move around and hopefully go for one of the impala or any other, not the baby water buck. Tingana, you are not allowed to get the baby water buck. I don't think I could handle that. Now that is unfortunately also part of the things that we have to see in nature is it's the constant fight, and for one thing to survive, unfortunately something else has to perish, and it's not always pretty, but it is part of our understanding of how the natural system works and seeing that everything has a reason. Seems like there are a lot of elephants in the distance that are trumpeting, but they are quite far from us, and I wonder if they're not just being angry because of the wind. We saw the ones earlier, that female that was rumbling at the youngsters and didn't want them to cross the road for whatever reason it was where we were. She just wanted them to cross the road further ahead. So could be maybe the elephants. Now Ferg is going to show us the clouds and how quickly they're moving. They're going at a certain speed because obviously the wind is pushing them, but what's puzzling to us is that right at the back, almost, behind this very thick layer of clouds, you can see a blue sky. But if we gaze towards other areas, then it's looking very, very dark, and you can still see that the cloud cover is very thick, so I'm not too sure what to expect anymore. Maybe we'll get some rain here, maybe we won't, but you see down there at the bottom is looking quite dark and gloomy. So I think we might get a drizzle a little bit later. I mean, it would help us feel better that it rained once we put the roofs on top of the car, because we had quite a long debate about it this afternoon, where Ferg and I were convinced that it wasn't going to rain, and as soon as we decided to get out, then we felt that maybe we should have gone back and actually put a roof on because it was looking quite gloomy. But you see now there's that strange scenery of a lot of blue and then a lot of darkness. So who knows? Maybe Tingana knows. Maybe he knows that there's no reason to move, and that's why he's still here. Why would you decide to go into another spot? Now, the spot where he's in, also funny enough, it's a bit of a clay soil, so it's muddy soil, and I think maybe he's there because perhaps it's softer and less annoying than the sandy patches. Right, seems like Tristan has found some elephants, so let's head back to him and figure out if his are also making a noise.
Well, we do have an elephant that is being blown about all over the place and doesn't seem to be too fazed by it. It's just slowly kind of eating as it goes and picking up grasses, funnily enough. It's not eating marulas, can you believe it? It's amazing. But it is feeding off a lot of the grasses that have grown, and so lots of nice seeds that are on the grasses, and that's perfect nutrition for a young bull elephant. There you go. You can see all of the grass being pulled up by the trunk, and it'll find that it'll eat just the tops of the grass and then drop the rest. They're not actually really interested in the stalk element. They just want those seeded areas. There you go. You see the stalks dropping. So they're not interested in eating stalks of grass at the moment. It's all about eating just the seeded areas and making sure that they get that nutrition and don't waste space on stalks. They want to keep as much space for fruit and seeds as they can. But there really is a serious storm by the looks of things that's starting to blow, and it's all around us. There's big, dark, black grey kind of clouds that are coming in. So that's the nice side of things. That's where everything looks okay. But what's coming in from the south is what's really a sort of problem. So I'm going to go out onto Impala Plains. I'm hoping our Ellie will come out onto Impala Plains as well. We're right here, so there's a little open clearing right here, and it'll be so pretty if this elephant comes out onto the open section with these storm clouds. But to our south is where the problem, north and south is our problem. So we've got really big black ominous clouds to the north and very big black ominous clouds to the south, which means that at some point we are going to get caught in all of this. So we'll have a look here. This is going to be probably our best spot just to have a little sort of view of what we are in for this evening. I'm pretty sure we are going to get rain, but you can see on this side over here is all big dark sort of blue black clouds that are that side, and they look quite ominous, which is on the northern side of us, and it seems to be kind of horseshoeing around us, which is wonderful because we're not getting wet just yet, which is great. And then it kind of lightens up towards the western side and towards the Drakensberg Mountains, and where there should be the Drakensberg Mountains and the sunset. And then as we start bending off towards the left, you can see those dark clouds pick up again, and it gets quite ominous. You can actually see there's quite a bit of rain falling down to the southwest at the moment. Actually, you can see there's the rain there, and the edge of the Sabi Sands, which is those hills right there, those three hills, are the western side of the Sabi Sands. Steve, rain is fantastic, just not when you are in an open vehicle with a whole bunch of camera equipment on it. Doesn't really go very well when you have all of this stuff on here. It causes a little bit of a problem, and we can obviously damage a lot of equipment without having proper rain covers on. And when it gets really stormy, it's quite difficult for all of that. Plus lightning is a bit of a worry when you've got antennas up in the air and all kinds of other things. But for the environment, rain is very good. It's only problem with the rain that we have is that we have a situation where it makes game viewing incredibly difficult. So tracking of things like leopard and those kind of things becomes much harder, and so we'll probably go through a bit of a lull in a lot of our sightings over the course of the next sort of few weeks of rain, and then it picks up again as it starts to dry out and things start making their way towards water. But pretty epic skies, if you ask me. Even though the promise of rain is there, it's still really cool just to see them, and it's amazing how fast the clouds are moving at the moment. The clouds are kind of ripping through the sky, and because of this heavy wind that's coming through. Now, our bull elephant hasn't made it onto the open area. I was hoping that he would. He's kind of stuck in those grasses, and I wouldn't be surprised he stays in there given the wind that's blowing on this open section. It's not really the best place for an elephant to be. But a few impalas that have made their way out and onto the open area, and I'm sure they're going to spend some time around here. There they are, just on the fringes. So they are being clever and finding themselves a big open section to spend the evening, and they're going to need it because I'm pretty sure all of the predators are going to be very active this afternoon. We've already seen the Nkuhumas starting to chase certain animals, and so I'm pretty sure leopards will be along the same lines. Good. We're going to carry on. I think our bull Elias is just disappearing deeper into the thickets behind us, so he's going kind of northwards and not towards this open section, which I was hoping for. And we can see that the rain is kind of skirting along on the western fringes of the Sabi Sands now, so we'll kind of slowly but surely start heading a little bit closer to home, because we don't want a situation where we get caught out. Like I say, we don't have a roof, and equipment is obviously something we need to be aware of. So we'll start slowly kind of moving back closer towards home in case it does start to rain. While we do that, let's send you back across to Ali and Tingana, and I wonder if he's going to be on the prowl this evening.
Hopefully later on he'll be on the prowl. It doesn't seem like he's still gonna prowl anywhere. I think he's still gonna sleep for a little while longer. And sorry for He almost got cut there by half. I think the camera decided to move by itself, but no, even then Tingana didn't move. I think you wouldn't perceive that. Now, Ferg and I have started to layer up, try and put some more things on top of ourselves, because it is getting quite cold. The wind is very cold, and I'm surprised he's decided to sleep out here in the open. I do think that it's going to be a little bit warmer where he is, but I don't think that much warmer. So he had a better spot earlier on. I think this morning he had the winning spot. I don't know if he got tired of it, perhaps too many cars, because it was right next to a main road, so that could be the reason why he decided to leave that spot, other than, of course, looking for water and food. But the second spot where he was in, I felt like that could have been a good one. He would have been quite happy in there, a little bit of shelter, but clearly not the spot that he's hard desired. And as I was saying earlier, I don't know if he perhaps chose to come a little bit more into this area because it seems like it's a muddy soil, so perhaps that's why he's here, because the ground is a little bit softer. Jonathan, not too many animals like the rain in my experience. I think elephants might be some of the few that thoroughly enjoy playing with the rain and with the puddles. But it also depends on the rain. If it's a thunderstorm with a lot of electrical activity, then most of the animals don't like it and they get very nervous. But you'll see after the rain, a lot of animals are happy. The birds are happy and they find mud bath everywhere. Hippos can move a lot easier. Rhinos, buffalo also like it because they have so many more places where they can go and just chill during the day. But the cats in general, being true cats, they don't seem to enjoy the water all that much. Ah, frogs, of course. Those are animals that are very happy. And funny enough, tortoises as well. We've seen so many tortoises today on the road, but just crossing the road. I think it could have been at least 10. Hey, Ferg, 10 of them or so? Yeah, they were all over. Terrapins as well, moving around. Frogs, we haven't seen them yet, but they would probably be the happiest ones in the rain, because then they can go from puddle to puddle, and then that's when we start seeing them. And I can't think of anybody else that would be quite happy in the rain. Well, I think that's probably it. What? Catfish. Barbels, yes. They would probably be very happy, and all the fish that might live at the dam too. But but I don't know who else. That would be my guess. Cats definitely not. Tingana would probably look very miserable underneath the rain, and the lions also don't particularly enjoy it. You can hear the hippos calling in the distance, going with their laughs. I love it. It's one of my favorite sounds just because I find it one of the most hilarious noises that an animal could possibly make. It's almost like they're laughing. They don't really talk. They laugh at each other all the time. Come, Tingana. We just want to see which way you're going to go. See if you're going to try a hunt impala, perhaps a baby waterbuck, perhaps go somewhere else and start all over. Seems like Byron is trying to find the lion, so let's hop on his vehicle and wish him good luck.
Well, I'm trying to. I don't know where they've gone. Obviously, we lost them moving through that very thick block. I've driven right around trying to get back from the opposite side to see maybe we've got some luck from around here, but I just don't know which direction they went. They could have changed direction. And it's so thick. I mean, there's no way of getting through here. So I'm not sure. I've just come into an area that I think they might show up. Trying to see if I can't hear anything. Maybe we get an alarm call or two if they're walking through here. But I don't know. As I said, their general direction was east. But they could very easily head through that block. So they were basically coming from that direction over there. Let's just have a look there, since I would say that's where we were. Maybe a little bit, yeah, that's very, very close to where we were. Just having a look at that map quickly. Almost exactly in that direction where Senzo's now pointing the camera through there, a little bit further north. So they were heading east. I was thinking, remember I said the nearest waterhole is Gallagher Pan, but they could head east and they could just go all the way through, keep going and come out at Vuyatila Dam, or they could come through and turn and head north in that direction. So I don't know, but we'll have a look here for a while and see if they come through, and then we'll go past the dams and just check if they've come through there. Let's go across to Tristan, who's got his spotlight out.
I do indeed. It's getting dark very quickly now, so we do have our spotlights out, and there's some beautiful kudu and impalas just on my right hand side under a rather gloomy sky. So we are going to go into infrared, because otherwise the camera just won't be able to pick these guys up at all. So there is our kudus sitting under the tree, and so they all just kind of patiently moving towards at least a bit more open sections, and you can actually see some of them are lying down in the background even, and I think they're just trying to find somewhere to shelter from not only the wind but the cold that is around as well. And I think there might be a few young animals that don't make it through the night, and the reason why I say young animals is because they're often very susceptible to changes in temperature, particularly quick changes in temperature like we've had today. So this morning we were doing a cleanup of all of our vehicles and of the areas where the vehicles park, and it was seriously humid and hot, and everyone was kind of sweating. But then you came out this afternoon and it's a very different temperature, and it's going to be a cold night tonight. So a lot of the younger animals, they haven't quite built up the body fat yet, and the resistance to changes in temperature, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we find a few young impalas or something like that maybe have died through exposure, unfortunately. Dale, I know we see very few steenbok on camera, but I can promise you that there are not few of them. They are everywhere here. The problem is that they are so shy and flighty that to get one on camera is near impossible. So, I mean, we try often and they just run, and so it's a very difficult animal to get on camera, but there are hundreds of them here. They literally are everywhere. And, the amount of steenbok we see in a drive versus the amount that we can actually get on camera is probably, I would say, maybe if we get 5% of the steenbok we see on camera, it's a lot. So we just battle with that because of how shy and skittish they can be. They kind of just see the vehicle, and as soon as you stop, they're bolting off. Same with Duiker as well. We've got very little in the terms of kind of catalogued footage of Duiker and steenbok because of how shy they are. Whereas if you think of something like all the other animals that we see, we tend to be able to watch them a lot longer, and they don't sit still like these kudu do, unless you're very lucky and you get a relaxed pair or a relaxed individual, which is few and far between out here, I'm afraid. So that's why it's not that they're not here. There are lots of them. It's just a very difficult animal to actually keep on a camera for any extended length of time, unless you currently live at that very moment and that steenbok runs out in front. Often by the time the link has come across, that steenbok has moved off and gone somewhere else. Anyway, let's carry on. Let's see what else we can find. Our kudus are being like little statues and seem as though they're fairly chilled, and I don't want to stress them out with lights or anything like that, so we're going to carry on going forward and see what else we can find. Joan, yes, there are a lot of cases of rabies in South Africa, not in humans so much, but obviously a lot in domestic dogs, particularly in rural communities where access to veterinary services is very few and far between, and also just access to the knowledge of what rabies actually is not really around. So lots and lots of rabid dogs on the fringes of these game reserves. It's why a lot of these reserves and Kruger themselves have really kind of gone in a mission to try and strengthen the boundaries, put in a lot more measures to try and stop rabid dogs getting in. And the problem with rabid dogs is that once they're in, they get fed on by all kinds of predators, so leopard, jackals, lions, all kinds of things will go after a rabid dog and eat it. And then also what they do is they can spread it to other animals. So some of the biggest vectors for rabies in the studies that have been done, particularly in the Sabi sands, have actually been animals that you would never guess are vectors for rabies. And one in particular is kudu. So kudu are carriers of rabies and can move it around all over the place, and then an animal feeds off it and can pick it up. So kudu are a big threat in terms of carrying rabies in these areas. They generally die from it, but they then get scavenged by things like jackals, and the jackals then pick it up from there, and it's why we've got very few jackals in this area. Other ones are mongoose. So lots of the mongoose species carry rabies quite regularly, and they also then again get scavenged by various predators, which then pick it up. So it is a major concern, and something that is being looked at by not only the government but all of these private reserves. They do a lot of effort to try and get veterinary services out into the community, so that the communities can at least get access to it, and they can get sterilized and sorted out and treated, and make sure that the rabid dogs are being kept under control and not getting into these wildlife areas. And also, just from a point of view of human safety, it's good to try and weed out rabid dogs so that people are not being bitten and contracting rabies themselves. So it's a big thing, and there's a big project that's happening at the moment where, like I say, vets come out every 2 to 3 months, and they come in, dart and vaccinate and do all kinds of things, and exterminate any rabid animals that could be on the fringes of these areas. So lots gets done in that regard, and it's a good thing. They need to do it, and hopefully that will keep things kind of out. So Fabiola, you were saying you always thought rabies was spread by bites only. Well, not necessarily. So if an animal that has rabies is fed upon, and there's a cut in the mouth or anything like that, then that animal can get it. Now I just want to turn off my lights as we go through this big herd of impala. And so, it's not only by being bitten by that rabid animal. You can pick it up from some of the animals actually feeding off another infected individual. Right. Off we go. And so that's why, if you remember, there was a leopard in this area called Sindile, and Sindile tried to kill a dog, which was then tested once it was exterminated and was found positive for rabies. And it's why Sindile had to go through a whole treatment to try and stop him from contracting rabies, and it was a whole drawn out process. And that was only because he tried to feed on that animal, and he killed it and punctured the skin, and blood got onto his mouth. Had he not grabbed the animal, then it would have been fine, but he unfortunately tried to do it, and the animal didn't bite him, so it wasn't that he was bitten, it was more that he fed on it and contracted it from there. There's a lot of actual myths about rabies. A lot of people, will always think of bats being the ones that carry the most rabies. Now, bats can have rabies, but they're not as rabid as everybody thinks they are. They don't actually carry it as much as what some of the other animals out here do, so it's a pretty interesting thing. Dala, I'm not 100% sure about this, and it's something that I have asked somebody, and they said to me they weren't sure. So somebody that studied and did a whole thing on rabies and a whole project on it, and it's whether or not birds can contract rabies, and he wasn't sure, the guy that did it. And to be honest, I wanted to go and research it, and I forgot about it. And sometimes that happens, as you're kind of, by the time you finish a conversation and you end up going somewhere else, you forget about these things. But I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know. I've never heard of it, and you would think things like vultures would carry rabies because they scavenge off kills, and I've never heard of vultures sort of transmitting it to other animals. Maybe it's because birds are not fed on nearly as much that they can carry it, but we just don't notice it. I'm not sure. What vultures do carry a lot of is anthrax, though. That's something that they can spread quite quickly. And so you find it's very, very dangerous if vultures are around. Generally, you should actually be trying to burn carcasses of animals that you find that test positive for anthrax, so that vultures don't get into it, because they'll transmit it to any water within the area, and that causes a big problem. And talking about vultures, actually, it's a very sad day for vultures in general in South Africa. There was not in South Africa, actually, in southern Africa. So there was a poisoned carcass that was found in Mozambique, just near the Kruger National Park border, quite far north of us, and it was poisoned, and it's led to 104 vultures being poisoned, and I think of the 104, 89 or something like that were dead when they got there, and they managed to treat 14 of them, I think, or something like that. And they're still looking, though. They haven't checked the entire area, and I'm pretty sure there'll be more vultures that will probably turn up dead in that area, which is very, very sad. It's a big problem in these sections, is that what happens is sometimes the guys will poison a big carcass like an elephant, and then they get things like lions as well as hyenas and vultures, and particularly vultures, and they can get hundreds of vultures in one time, which is very, very sad. I believe the guy was arrested, so whoever was responsible for it was found and arrested, and it will be interesting to see what sort of justice is handed down to him, or what sentence is handed down to him for the killing of all of those endangered birds. All of them are on the endangered species list, and I believe of the 104 birds, I think it was 80 were white-backed vultures that were dead, and 7 or 9, I think it was hooded vultures that were also killed. So very, very sad, and it's never nice when you think about those things. So those are a lot of the problems that face vultures at the moment, is that. Right, well, let's try and steer away from the morbid, and let's send you back across to Ali with, well, a beautiful spotted cat that will cheer anybody up after thinking about those things.
We are barely with the spotted cat, Tristan. No, Tingana has not moved, and I think we're going to give him about another 10 minutes or so before we decide to leave him, because I don't think he's going to be active anytime soon. It almost seems like it's taking him a little bit longer to get up and decide to move, and by the look he gave us earlier, that split second where he moved from the other spot where he was to here, doesn't seem like he's that interesting in moving about too much. So maybe he's recovering from his walk and he's just going to start moving later on. I mean, he's shown no signs of actually wanting to get up anytime soon. Hasn't been head up, hasn't been opening his eyes all that much. There's been no grooming going on. So I think perhaps it's going to be a very lazy Sunday evening for him, much like for the rest of the animals all around, I should say. Now, the elephants that we heard earlier, no idea why they were screaming. I wonder if perhaps there wasn't another leopard somewhere around, but had that been the case, I reckon Tingana would have probably gotten up. Now, I know he looks very indefensive in the area where he is. He's chosen quite an open spot, but he's very clever. So, in lying in this open spot, it'll be very hard for anything to try and approach him without him noticing and without giving him the possibility of actually running away and trying to get away from any potential threat. So he's also being clever in that regard in the very own spot where he's sleeping. So he's got a few tricks up his sleeve, and I think he hasn't failed to surprise us yet. Our Lara Moore, one of the things that the cats do to maintain their clothes sharp and clean is scratching them on top of the trees. I believe Tristan earlier on was showing you the claw marks of a leopard and of a lion on the same tree. So that is the one way that it seems like they maintain their clothes clean, just by scratching on a tree or just any other surface that might just sharpen them up a little. Now, it also helps that they don't unsharpen, and they're not, unsharpen is probably not the word, but they're not blunt like the ones of a cheetah, and because they're retractable claws. So when they're not being used, they're being safely tucked away back into their casing, and that way they don't get blunt and they are just kept in a better condition for longer. I think this guy is probably doing just that, and that's part of the reason why we never see the claws of a lion or a leopard when they're walking, because the claws are always inside, and they only seem to use them whenever they're hunting or, well, of course, climbing trees, because then they need the extra grip whenever they're going places. Now, they've got their four claws on their fingers, and then they've got the one on the top, the dew claw. That's the one that can inflict the more danger. Now, Byron is looking at a tree, and I wonder what he spotted in there. So let's get over to him and find out.
Can you hold it? Yeah. There we go. All right. Well, I think I've managed to spot. Hold on. Our spotlight seems to be giving us a bit of trouble here. A scorpion. Hold on. I'm just going to jump out a second. So those lions, unfortunately, we lost them. They disappeared. I think they're going to come through a little bit later, but that block is quite big where they were. Let's see if I can show you a scorpion though. I managed to spot him. Where is he? There he is. Let's see, it's very windy. You see the pincers? There they come. Come on, come out for us. See, it's amazing how these scorpions are able to fit in these tiny holes. Now this one, don't think it wants to come out now. We saw the pincers, but they were right out, and he was basically just hanging his pincers out. And then as we drove past, I caught a glimpse of him, and with the light, they don't like the light very much, and he pulled those pincers together and basically went in like this. So that's why he was hiding in there, or how he got in there. But it's amazing that he could fit. Really incredible. I wonder how big that scorpion is. Perfect little hole to wait for some insect, but I think he's too clever for us. He realized we weren't an insect. But you did see the pincers come out a little bit. Thank you, Senzo. Oh no, our spotlight's giving. This is a spotlight on Wendy. I think this is the vehicle I'm on, Wendy. It's giving us a bit of trouble. Oh, it's cold and windy. Not very pleasant. It's difficult to find animals, especially nocturnal animals, in this type of weather. And when I say nocturnal animals, I mean like animals like porcupine or bush baby or little chameleons hiding on trees. This weather, it's very, very difficult. You might get, I think the predators will probably be moving around a lot in this type of weather, like those lions. Wherever they went, I mean, they disappeared quite quickly. But there was a big block that they walked through, so they possibly just take their time walking through there, and they'll pop out somewhere. I don't know. I'm sure they'll pop out somewhere. Pardon? Oh, gee, I haven't, sorry. I haven't heard any questions because I'm not plugged in. Thanks very much, Senzo. Trevor, sorry, I wasn't ignoring you there, Kirst. Trevor asked if there are any skunks in South Africa. Well, technically not. Let me just show you something. I want to get my mammal book out. So they are part of the skunk family, and we do have a striped polecat, which is not a cat at all. It's probably more closely related to the honey badger, believe it or not. So there's an African striped weasel over there. I've never seen one of these. That kind of looks like a skunk, but that's part of the weasel family. And then let me show you quickly. This is the striped polecat. That looks like a skunk, doesn't it? But it's not a skunk. It's a polecat, sorry. Sorry, there we go. Can you see that clearly? Striped polecat. I've only ever seen 2 of these in the wild. Now, they do secrete a chemical defense, similar to that of the skunk, not as pungent, but they do secrete a chemical defense if they feel threatened. I want to see if they say anything about it. Okay, so here we go. If threatened, it adopts threat posture with rump towards aggressor, I sometimes wonder how that is a threatening posture anyway. Back arched and tail held erect. If threat persists, it squirts foul-smelling liquid or fluid at aggressor. So exactly like a skunk, but this is not as bad as a skunk from my understanding. And surprisingly, you know what else does that? Is the honey badger. Now, honey badgers do also secrete a liquid like a very musty smell and scent if they are threatened really badly. I've seen it with wild dogs before. They do stand and they secrete a very strong odor, which also deters predators. And that's why these honey badgers, the striped weasel, and the striped polecat are all part of the Mustelidae family, as well as the otters. They're also part of that family, Mustelidae. All right, so no skunks as such, but animals that are very, very similar to skunks. Okay, let's go across. Sorry, I didn't know who we are going to. I didn't hear that. Sounds like someone's got an elephant.
Yes, I do have an elephant, Byron, and so we are sitting, and there is an elephant feeding and sustaining its gluttony via a whole bunch of marulas on the floor, which is fairly typical for what we've been seeing over the past little bit. And so this Ellie is just kind of doing his thing, and I'm surprised he's out in the open. It's so windy up here on quarantine. I would have thought that this elephant would have gone into the thickets and would have been able to try and kind of get into some semblance of shelter rather than being right out in the open. But it's a young bull, so maybe the fact that there's no big males around, it's taking its opportunity to feed on these nutrient-rich resources before the big bulls maybe push it off, and it doesn't have that ability to do so. So you'll find young males will come out and feed when the big bulls are away, and when the big guys are around, then these guys unfortunately get pushed off a little bit and kind of get moved on to somewhere else. There you go, crossing the road and ambling off into the night and probably onto the next marula tree at some point. It's starting to get out of the sort of way of that particular marula tree. Right, now Byron, who proposed that we all look for a certain animal, has found one as well, and that is very cool because we've been looking for them the last few days and he's managed to find one, and that's the second one for this afternoon.
Yep, finally managed to find a little chameleon at night, but I can see why it has been difficult. This one blends in so well, and look how tightly it's holding on there. Look at that. I mean, okay, well there you can see it now because the spotlight's on it, but it blends in so well. Looks like one of the leaves. Well, I'm very happy. Managed to find a flap-neck chameleon. Looks like there's something in its mouth, but it's not. It's actually a little bit part of the branch that it's on. It's just in front of its head. It hasn't got anything in its mouth. I just don't know. I thought tonight would be the worst night to try and find a chameleon. Clifford, no, as far as I know, the chameleons are not on the endangered species list, but people still try to catch them and keep them as pets, and that's not ideal. You should leave the chameleons in the wild, but there are loads of chameleons around and a few different species. This is the only species we get in this area, though, the flap-necked chameleon, because of that flap behind the neck. They are beautiful little creatures, fascinating little creatures. But it's holding on for dear life over there. I'm not going to... Vincent, well, chameleons deter predators. Sorry, I'm going to take the spotlight off of it for now. I think we've had a nice view of it. I don't want to disturb it too much. Vincent, chameleons deter predators in a few different ways, but obviously the main one is camouflage. Well, it's to protect themselves, not deter predators, but to protect themselves. They use their camouflage to hide. The one thing they do, which kind of is to deter predators, is they change color coloration to much dark colors, almost black in parts, blotches of black, and they puff themselves up slightly and they hiss. They actually make a hissing sound, and that usually might help stop a predator from going for it. That's actually the only thing it does to deter predators. Now I heard something very grumpy up ahead. Steve, you asked how the hell did I find that? Well, Steve, a bit of practice, working in the bush and looking for these animals, knowing what to look for. It does take a bit of practice, but they've got a slightly different shape to the leaves usually, and also a slightly lighter coloration, which you can occasionally pick up with the spotlight. Their eyes do not reflect like other animals do, so it's literally just the shape and maybe a slight color variation in the leaf, or compared to the leaf. There was someone or something that sounded very grumpy here, and I think I found it. Yeah, it's an elephant. I'm going to turn my lights off. Just going to sneak past this elephant. Don't want to upset him. No, he seems very, very relaxed. I just heard him trumpet. Unless there's another elephant out here somewhere. Alright, well, what a wonderful afternoon. Despite the weather, we still got to see lions. We got to see them being a bit playful. Ali got to spend time with Tingana. Tristan got to drive around. We'll see you all tomorrow again, though, and we'll see what we can find. But thank you to Tristan, thank you, Ali, and obviously Kirsty in Final Control, and all of you for your questions and comments. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Sunset safari, and hopefully those lions make a kill this evening. Good night and goodbye.